Well, it's another day and another total change in climate. Perfect day again, except for the breeze, of course. It's got that typical blowiness. So you can see the schools are empty. School holidays has begun, and I'm just heading up to Westcourt again to Australia Post, but to a different branch, to collect an eBay item, which should be the casing for my GoPro, the new casing. So rather than having this jerry-built job with the elastic band holding the unit together, it'll be a design case. It's a lot cheaper than buying a new one. This camera is still working fine, so no need to change it. I'm pretty happy with it. And there's the GP there. They've still got people waiting out the front. Probably. There's someone with one of those mobility scooters. They can be a bit dodgy at times. Those things can move, and I guess no one has to have a license to run one of those things. And I think someone's has almost bumped into me in the past. So I'll see how we go. You know, it's a good day for a walk. I'm waiting for a phone call from hospital. Someone's supposed to get back to me Monday, really, yesterday afternoon. They were supposed to call me by 3 and they hadn't, so I rang and received no reply from them. So it'd be a good job to have. Obviously there's no accountability. Actually, I think they're pretty flat out, to be fair. They seem to be pretty busy at the hospital at the moment, so I probably shouldn't prejudge. Another area where I almost did prejudge was actually these concreters, these guys who are concreters in their high-vis vests. They discovered this incredible store of toilet paper in a suburban house in, I think, called Macquarie. It's a suburb called Macquarie Fields. I'm not familiar with it, but it's in Sydney. And it was posted to Facebook. It's amazing, a number of toilet rolls, but as it turned out, the person who actually supposedly was hoarding them and supposedly sending them to China, it was actually the opposite way around. She was actually importing them from China, and she had a couple of stores that she was going to distribute them to. So these hotheads actually they've added up 2 and 2 and came to 5. So initially I was pissed off because I thought that it was someone hoarding, and I hate those people. I just think it's so selfish, but it wasn't, and they just didn't. I guess maybe the woman couldn't communicate very well in English. I'm not sure. She was Chinese, from China herself, but they just didn't even give her a chance by the sound of things to explain it. But I may be wrong there, but on the surface it looked terrible because there was just so many. But I think they were they were stored indoors, so that was no problem. But the shots showed them being in a pile in the backyard or something, so that seemed a bit strange. I don't think you'd do that with toilet paper. It makes sense to put it out in the open. It's crazy. Anyway, it made a good photo op for the Daily Mail, and I think this is their form of retraction of the story. Well, I don't think they're the ones that necessarily broke the story anyway, but it was interesting to see that upshot, because I looked at the comments after I sort of initially saw the story, and people were making a few points that, you know, don't jump to conclusions. Oh, dead right. We're living in troubled times. You know, people are using race as a weapon, and people have been abused in the past, no doubt about it. And it's like that George Floyd thing. George Floyd shouldn't have been treated the way he was. He shouldn't be dead, but he was a dodgy character, which is not surprising. He had contact with the police. Unfortunately for George, he happened to come across a group of police who were poorly trained, maybe couldn't hold their emotions, and they just, for some inexplicable reason, they did something just incredibly stupid and callous, and and killed the guy. You know, it's just no excuses. Just no excuses. Just stunning. Especially a group of police could do that. And didn't they what if there's consequences for anybody carrying out physical acts like that, and especially for police, and the damage they've done to their own profession is just that's worse. It's bad enough for George Floyd, obviously, who may well have died soon anyway. He had a fairly checkered career apparently, but I can't. I'm just speculating on that, of course. But certainly the police have had a hard enough time already. This has just added so much, especially in the US. I feel so sorry for them, the crap they have to put up with. And most cops aren't bad, but there are bad ones around. And Tim Pool's had bad experiences with police, but he's smart enough to know that not all cops are like that, because he had to deal with Chicago police, and that's a very corrupt city. But again, he doesn't hold it against all cops. He knows that there's bad apples everywhere, and the stats show that, say, a person who's a black person in the States, a black male, is far more likely to die at the hands of another black male, young male that is, than to be killed by a cop. Just passed by 3 police signs. Just found there's another one there. And finally someone is actually trading. So that's 1 out of 4 that's actually trading in empty places. That doesn't look too busy either. Yeah, it's just as bad up here. This is probably about half a kilometre out of town. So some places going, but not many. Of course, we're coming up to Warren Inch's electoral office, and that's huge. And of course, federal government's always going to be around. So I picked up my item. It's very tiny. It would have almost squeezed into my letterbox, but unfortunately our letterboxes are crap. You know, they're too small. I reckon they're a lot of them are dented. I don't know why we haven't got them replaced. We get ones with a little bit bigger slots and what have you. You could actually put some parcels in there, little parcels like this, because I wouldn't have to then do the hike, although, you know, the exercise is good. Anyway, there he is. Warren Inch's electoral office. Yeah, so there you go. The police sign play continues. Gel busters. Paint fighting, I guess. Yep, they've got a store just providing accessories for that. Never tried it. With my eyesight, I'd think I'd just be a sitting duck. Oh, I've been watching Naked and Afraid, and I feel so really sorry for one of the women on this thing, because she's unfortunately teamed up with a guy called Seth. That's his name, Seth. And he's absolutely useless. He's got tickets on himself. He thinks he's a hunter. But what he really does is he just goes into the hide. He has this hide that he's built up near a lake. This is in Africa. And he basically just goes there and has a snooze, from what I can gather. It's hard to tell because these shows are heavily edited, so you don't really know what's going on. But he had problems with previous Naked and Afraid episodes with other team members, so he's got a history basically, and to me he just comes across as a total bludger. So what he does is he heads off, does this, and lets the woman do all the maintenance around the actual camp. So it's basically his way of bludging, just abrogating his responsibility, because all he's ended up doing is wound an animal, but not enough to slow them down. They ran away, so that's the closest he's come. So he's pretty useless as a hunter, and I just don't think he's fair dinkum about it. I think he's just using its excuse. So that would really piss me off. If you're in an extreme survival situation, the last thing you need is someone hanging off your coattails, not contributing. So she's got bad feet, unfortunately, but she's finally seen the light. Mind you, she was trying to make a go of it with the vegan I mentioned earlier, who was absolutely useless, the vegan student. And of course she dropped out. Big surprise. I mean, actually there have been contestants in this thing, I suppose you call participants, I guess you call them, I don't think there's any prizes, who have actually have had very strict diets and have actually survived, which is quite extraordinary. But generally speaking, a vegan would be the last person I'd have if I had to survive out in the savannah of Africa. And basically you need to get your protein, you need your strength, and you're not going to get it through vegetation. There isn't much around. You basically this is how we got to where we are. They say the brain development occurred because two things, we basically hunted meat as well as vegetables, so we're omnivores, and we cooked the meat, which actually then concentrated the nutrition even further. So the combination of doing those things added to a lot more nourishment, enabled us to develop larger brains, and so we became the apex species on the planet. Well, that's the theory anyway, and it seems to hold up. But science as it is, theories are able to be destroyed if you come up with alternate evidence. So, but at this stage, it seems a pretty good theory. But like I said, if you're going on a show like Naked and Afraid, and you've got you're carrying that sort of lead, what can you do? So anyway, this woman, so she obviously was hoping to she sort of was a bit of a soulmate with the vegan, so that was good for her spiritually, and of course the vegan girls helped her out around the camp, as opposed to the bludger who was out, who go and walk about and was in his hide. But of course, once she tapped out, then this woman's really upset because she's stuck with this drop kick, and there's been a lot of verbal animosity between them. She's fed up with him, made it clear that's how she feels. So there's a lot of tension. And the other thing is that her only way out is to leave. This is what other people have done, and that's the only way you can improve your situation. Of course, that requires a hike in incredibly hot conditions, and her major problem is that she's got problems with her feet. So she's going to try to make some footwear to cushion the feet, and so she can just leave, because that guy's absolutely useless. And there's actually the vegan left a guy in the same fashion, but he was able to fish, and he's actually looked after himself pretty well. He's actually got plenty of protein, and he's very happy to be by himself, and he's flourishing. But this other guy, he's absolutely useless. And I wonder how these guys feel when these shows are broadcast. And I mean, maybe they're just so clueless, because I mean, obviously he would have got stick from the previous episode he was on, but maybe they just don't care, or they don't realise how badly portrayed they are. I mean, you'd think once bitten, you'd probably say, no, I'm not going to do this again because the producers are making me out to look worse than I am, even if they're not. But the fact is, does anybody really want to have themselves trashed on TV? I mean, I think the ratings are reasonable for this show, so there'd be a few people who would have seen it. The same thing happens with the mining shows too. The latest one, Bering Sea Gold. You've got the Irish guys, Irish American guys, and they're breaking the rules all the time and doing devious things to get the gold and what have you. And the father there's made out to be a real low life, although they've pulled that back a lot. So I'm wondering whether, I think it was a script, and I think they've decided whether it was actually the father himself who said to him, look, I don't want to be portrayed like this, or the producers just decided to soften him. He was definitely playing the bad guy anyway, and there's no doubt there's a lot of manipulation in these shows, and the word reality is used very loosely. So you want to take things with a huge grain of salt when you're watching the narrative on these shows. And they had another one, they got another one with the guy they regard as Mr. Gold, Sean Ponranke, he's had this problem with his father, Steve, and whether it's true or not, I don't know, but they've had a few what look like stage confrontations between father and son, and I think they are staged. Actually, I'd say I'll do it on that. I can't prove it. It's just a suspicion of mine. So, but like I say, when I watch these shows, I take them as just entertainment. I don't regard them as reality. If I get a good bit of diversion out of them, I'm winning. They're winning. You know, who cares? Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever, and either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.